I'm back. So, one, thank you for watching my last video about our friend Martha Stewart. Um, Two, I'm gonna try and do less smacking in this video and remain calm. So today, I wanted to talk about Whitney Houston. I watched both documentaries in one day. I didn't rewatch the Whitney documentary, but I feel like my feelings are still the same. I chose to watch this documentary, one, because my friend watched it, two, because Whitney Houston was also a part of my life for a very long time. And I also remember her riffraff when things were spiraling out of control. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning. What do I remember about the beginning of the documentary? I remember that uh, Whitney's mom, Nippy's mom, okay? Because this was Nippy. Nippy's mom wasn't around because she was off, trying to make money for her family and singing. And in the meantime, in between time, she was grooming Whitney to train her voice and just get her into a space that would make her a star instead of a fly by night sensation, and then she peters out at the end. You know what I'm saying? So we see all this, and one thing that was interesting to me, I forget who said it, might have been her mom, was just like, oh, she just loved to sleep. And I was like, that's odd. And as the story plays out on this screen, I was like, could it be that our friend Whitney Houston was depressed as a young teen? And that's why she liked to sleep, based on everything we know now. Also, y'all know I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for almost 10 years. I have seen substance use come in many shapes, sizes, forms. Okay. When one of Whitney's brothers started speaking, and I was looking at him like, before we even got to talk about drug use, I was like, something's happening on this screen and I don't know what it is. And then we got the answer. We got that although it seems like Whitney's parents did everything they could. Was that her real dad? Anyways, it seems like Whitney's parents did everything they could to keep her in like this nice protected bubble. But really, it be the people around you that will infiltrate. hmm and cause corruption in your child's life. I.e., I believe it was her aunt, allegedly, her brothers, and all the people and her daddy. Everybody was just violating this lady in every which way of the word, you know? So we find out there was this one, I don't even know if he was a family member. I don't know who this man was, but he was like, oh, for her birthday, I gave her coke and weed. Why? Oh, because she liked to have fun. So the people was blaming Bobby. But let me tell you, before we got to Bobby Brown, Whitney was already in it with her brothers because everybody got on Whitney's payroll. Her brothers was on the payroll. Her daddy was on the payroll. I'm sure her mama was on the payroll. She was not barely on her payroll. The whole family was on the payroll. To do what? Find drugs and maybe protect her, but not really because everybody was partying. Then we come up on Whitney's, they call her Whitney's lover. We don't have any other evidence to substantiate that claim. So it's her friend, I believe her name is Robin. And Robin seemed to be in Whitney's corner, but it seemed like as Whitney got larger and got into her relationship with Bobby, it was causing an issue between her and Robin. Now Robin crazy because Robin was like, either it's him or it's me. What did you realistically think Whitney was going to choose? Her marriage. Hello? So then Robin got booted out of the picture. So We find out that Whitney is traveling the world. She's doing all the things. It seems like by the time she meets Bobby, she's already heavy into her addiction and the partying. Um, and then it seems like people are blaming Bobby, but it's not his fault. And even to the point where the brother was like, "Well, Bobby couldn't hang." Why is that a laughing matter? That's not a laughing matter. So all y'all already have a tolerance for cocaine, and apparently Bobby did not. So Bobby was all over the place, just sloppy. So I there was just so much that went on. Then we have the alleged assault from her family member, and the brothers also substantiate that claim, but allegedly. But it don't seem like nobody in the family really believes that that happened, although everybody has the same story. And a lot of people believe that that's what Whitney has been or was running from her whole life, was that truth about herself. And why she wanted to keep Bobby Christina so close to her on tour all the time. But even in that environment, she wasn't watching her because she was working and doing drugs. And then the people was like, "Oh, that baby wasn't protected." Then what were you doing? What were you doing? How did you help the situation? It seemed like as she got into this big star and she was no longer Nippy and she was Whitney, um, she had no accountability. You know what? That was Martha's problem too. I'm just realizing. My main complaint with Martha was that she had no accountability and she couldn't tell the truth. In this situation, Whitney has no accountability and had nobody to rein her in. Everybody was going along for the ride because everybody was living off her checks. And then we find out that her father, is that her real dad or was that her stepdad? I don't know. Whoever that man was to her was her dad. Um, money, we don't know where the money went. And then after a certain point, he also sued her. Didn't know that. Didn't know that. It's a mess. It was just a mess. So I'm like, well, who could Whitney really trust? Who could she trust? Because from her family, all the way around, she has nobody to trust. And probably the people that she could trust have been edged out by the other people who are causing problems in her life. But what does she have to do? Continue to work, continue to strive because she is the one cutting the checks. So we have Whitney like upping and disappearing and moving to other states and not answering phones and being holed up in houses and just using. Okay. Then she went on an interview and said crack is whack. I make too much money to smoke crack. Crack is cheap. And what I realize now in my older age listening to that interview is that she never said, she did admit that sometimes she liked to do a little this and a little that. And she also never said that she didn't necessarily use drugs. You know? You know? So there's that. And then I feel like I'm skipping a lot of things because it was just a lot of the same. It was just a lot of like finding out the information and just being sad for her, finding out the information and seeing how people mishandled her, finding out the information and seeing how she grew up into this star. And then we get to her kind of being out of the limelight and then showing back up, I believe, for Sparkle. I think that's the movie. Is that the movie? Hold on. Let me look it up. Whitney Houston. Movies. Yup. Not The Bodyguard, girl. What movie was she in? Yes, Sparkle. And then from Sparkle, the people were like, well, you could tell she didn't really want to leave. Like, she decided to stay a few more days because, she seems to have a great time on set and she had found purpose again. And then the sad part about addiction is that it's always on your back. Like, just when you feel like you might get a handle on it, from what I've seen, I have not gone through addiction personally, but from my worked experience, right? Just when you feel like you got a handle on it, somebody will come and scoop in, or something will scoop in to make you dip back into where you just left. And the people be saying that, one, you're only basically like a reach away from your next drug or drink. And also, the next time you go out might be the last time you go out, because you don't know what's out there on them streets. So, the people left Whitney alone that night of was it Quincy Jones' party? And left Whitney alone in the bathtub, or left Whitney alone in the room, and then she was found in the bathtub. And I was like, that poor lady has that image like in her mind forever. How she found Whitney. And this is another person where I feel sad for the emotional parts of them, because like, how often did she get to access them or allow herself to access them? Because she lived a lot of her life in public, even though because she started out young in her career and then just kept going. She just kept going. And we have just watched her deteriorate. They made money off of her misfortune. Okay, remember that show, Bobby and Whitney? That was wild. I guess looking back, you can see where some of those things might have been a little bit inappropriate, but we all watched and indulged. Um, and maybe if people were a little bit more curious about her, and maybe if she was a little bit more protected by the people that should have protected her, would she still be here? Who knows? Who knows? But maybe she would have had a fighting chance. And I guess also from that documentary, you know that Bobby Christina also didn't have a fighting chance because of the environment that she grew up around and what she was subjected to. Although it seemed like Whitney thought she was doing the best, you can't be present and using drugs and singing and traveling, and like, that's not a good balance for a child. But it seemed like she did what she thought was best for her baby. And now we have all these people in her family left to tell the story. And I guess clear up some things, okay? And shifting the blame should be placed other places. The blame should be placed earlier and on family members, not necessarily the people that entered her life later on. And that's when the problem began to be more noticeable. Hmm. Because even one of her brothers, his main purpose, although he was there for maybe like security guard reasons or singing backup or something, um, he was like, "Oh, that was my job, to go get drugs, like every city that we touched down. That was your job. That's what they was paying for." That's interesting to me. Hmm? So, what's my review? My review is that it was sad. It was a sad day for me when I watched this documentary, because you just see, get a window into the tortured soul. Although her life seemed very glamorous, there was a lot that she just had unprocessed, and a lot she needed to be taken care of. And at the end of the day, she wasn't. Like, different parts of her needed to be taken care of, and only the star was taken care of because the star was the vehicle. The star was the machine. I feel bad for Nippy. Nippy, the teenage girl, the young girl. That's what I feel bad for. Because Whitney is the star. And Nippy was locked up in that star, never to be heard from again. Did I bring the mood down? Probably. Sorry, y'all. But if you watched it, comment down below. If you have any comments, again, comment down below. How did I do on my smacking? I feel like I didn't do it this time. So, bye.